Teacher, will you marry me?
In response to the sudden reverse proposal, I almost choked on the beer I was drinking. As I coughed, my younger girlfriend rubbed my back and looked straight into my eyes. In her earnest demeanor, I recalled our relationship. My name is John Smith. I'm 50 years old this year. I work as a tutor. But mainly, I teach elementary and middle school students, so I'm not glamorous or unique like a modern cram school teacher. I'm just an ordinary, run-of-the-mill teacher. I specifically teach social studies. Being a tutor is quite a demanding job. Preparation and curriculum development are essential, and during breaks, you have to grade tests, and I have to answer students' questions after class. I don't even have fixed days off. Many people have classes packed on weekends, and the same goes for spring and summer vacations. I rarely get to see my longtime friends, and even when I do, I almost never have time off with my colleagues. Naturally, I don't even have time to meet women. So, I'm single. I've never been married, not even once. When I mention this, people look at me as if they see something very pathetic, but I don't really have a strong desire to get married myself, and I don't feel like I could make it happen even if I tried my best. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm perfectly fine being single for the rest of my life. Some people suggest that if I'm so busy, I should change jobs, but I have my reasons. You see, I've been playing football since I was in middle school. I had a good physique from the start, and I was reasonably good at sports. However, as soon as I discovered football, I became captivated by its charm. Even as I became a working adult, I remained part of the company team and played with dedication. However, one day, I got involved in a car accident. I spent some time in the hospital and received treatment, but I was left with chronic pain in my shoulder and elbow joints. It doesn't affect my daily life, but for a sports athlete, it's a fatal injury. If it were an accident I had caused, I might have come to terms with it, but since I was suddenly caught up in it, I couldn't accept it. Furthermore, during my extended hospitalization, my girlfriend at the time quickly dumped me. Perhaps she couldn't handle the fact that I could no longer play football, or maybe she simply grew to dislike me. She ended our relationship while I was still in the hospital, and it left me not only physically but also emotionally lonely and disheartened. Since then, it feels like nothing I do goes well. Even after completing my rehabilitation and being discharged, my mindset remained the same. I joined a company that had a football team and worked hard, but the accident drained my motivation for work, and I ended up resigning from the job. Later on, I started coaching football for students, but I couldn't help but feel nostalgic for my own playing days. I found myself comparing my current self to my past, which left me feeling empty. However, the students took my coaching seriously, delivered results, and were happy, which should have made me happy too. But I couldn't help but notice that I couldn't fully embrace that happiness. I kept wondering why I couldn't play anymore. I couldn't forgive myself for not being able to share the joy with my students. As a result, I eventually quit coaching and distanced myself from football. However, I felt that teaching was something I was naturally suited for. Teaching meant supporting people striving toward their goals. I seemed to be the type who gives their all when relied upon, and I found meaning in teaching. At that time, I happened to hear that a cram school where my childhood friend worked as an employee was recruiting tutors. So I applied, and got the job. Kids absorb what I teach them, and the more effort they put into their studies, the better the results. I felt immense joy watching their growth, and I truly enjoyed it. Moreover, being a tutor kept me busy enough that I didn't have time to dwell on football or the accident, which was a relief. Among the instructors, I was relatively popular among the students, but one girl, in particular, grew especially fond of me. Her name was Lily Anderson. Our encounter began when Lily started attending the cram school at the age of 10. From the beginning, she had a friendly personality and would casually strike up conversations with me. She even said that I resembled her beloved teddy bear. When she found out I used to play football, she would happily exclaim,
My dad used to play too.
She was such an honest and adorable child. She was a straightforward and adorable girl. Even when I didn't have classes or was no longer her tutor, Lily would make the effort to come to me, chat, ask questions, and followed me everywhere. If you asked who the closest person to me was at that time, without a doubt, it was Lily. Despite the considerable age gap, she had a very mature personality. Spending time with Lily was genuinely enjoyable. Even though the tutoring is intended for elementary and middle school students, Lily continued to come even after becoming a high school student. She helped me with grading and made copies of study materials. But it's not a job, Lily is doing it out of kindness, so she doesn't get paid by the cram school. That's why I sometimes treat her to lunch or take her out to have some fun. It's definitely not dating. Just a way of saying thanks for her help. I used to justify meeting up with Lily to myself. One time, she invited me to go watch football, but back then, I still hadn't fully embraced the idea of watching football. Thinking about the accident and remembering her made it tough to watch the game. When I declined her invitation, she asked,
Teacher, you used to play football, right? Why did you quit? Don't you want to watch it?
That's when I suddenly realized something. I had never really told anyone why I quit in the first place. Actually, no one had ever asked me before. I guess as an adult, it felt like showing weakness and admitting my own shortcomings. But for some reason, I felt like I could talk to Lily about it, like I wanted her to know. So, I went ahead and told her about giving up football due to an injury and how it led to a breakup with my girlfriend at the time. Suddenly, Lily started crying. I was surprised and asked her why. She said,
It's tough to give up something you were so serious about. It's even harder when the person you wanted to understand you the most walks away.
As I comforted Lily, I couldn't help but feel that she was the first person who had ever said something like that to me. It made my heart feel warm and touched in a way I hadn't felt before. I felt a sense of shared emotions with Lily, who cried for me, and it seemed like my feelings towards football and any resentment towards her or the accident had lightened a bit. I wondered why I had been able to tell Lily something I had kept hidden from everyone else for so long. From that moment on, I began to be more curious about her. However, considering the age difference and our relationship as a tutor and a former student, I never thought about taking our relationship beyond what it was. Instead, I hoped we could continue as friends despite the age gap. Our interaction with Lily continued in the following days. When Lily turned 20, I asked her what she wanted as a gift, and she said something unexpected.
Teacher, how about I become your girlfriend?
You must be joking, right? I couldn't help but stare at Lily, a bewildered expression on my face. I thought she was just teasing me. But Lily had a serious expression on her face and said,
I'm already 20, and I want you to see me as an adult woman.
Despite her claim of being an adult, Lily was only 20. And I was 48 at the time, a 28-year age gap between us. I might be mistaken for a parent and a child. However, even though we spend time together regularly, I don't particularly feel the age difference. In fact, we get along well, have similar interests, it's enjoyable, and easy. Honestly, when it comes to dating, I can't think of anyone else but Lily, but considering the age difference, I can't easily nod in agreement. Seeing through my thoughts, Lily, in a somewhat forceful manner, said.
Let's give us a try.
And in the end, we started dating. Even though we started dating, the distance between Lily and me didn't change much from before. If anything, it's strange that the distance wasn't this close before. Lily is majoring in education at the university and is pursuing a teaching career. She successfully completed her teaching internship, and when I asked her, "What do you want for celebration?" Just like before, Lily earnestly said,
Teacher, please marry me.
I was so surprised that I almost choked on the beer I was drinking. While patting my back as I coughed, she looked at me with sincere eyes and said,
I already have my teaching license, and I can work. I can be independent. In the eyes of society, I'm just like a working professional. I want to be with you more, so please marry me.
When we started dating, I had quite a bit of hesitation, but by that time, I no longer hesitated. At that point, I was already in love with her, so I expressed my feelings to her, and we decided to get married. When Lily and I went to my parents to announce our marriage, they were more thrilled than I had imagined. It seemed like they had already given up on my marriage, and they cried tears of joy. The issue was Lily's parents. Her parents were about 3 years younger than me. What would they think about their daughter marrying a man so much older than her? I prepared myself for their opposition as we went to introduce ourselves. When we arrived at Lily's house, her mother welcomed us warmly.
Hello, I've heard about you from Lily. Please take care of our daughter,
she said very politely. However, as expected, her father didn't seem to be very supportive of the marriage. The tension grew, and I mentally braced myself. When her father led me to the waiting room, he was sitting there reading the newspaper with a displeased look on his face. Well, he was pretending to read, but it seemed like his attention was on me. I greeted him, but he didn't even look at me. Nevertheless, he muttered things like, "You're not much younger than me, are you? A tutor marrying his student is unthinkable." Lily's mother and Lily managed to defuse the situation, and finally, her father, who had been avoiding looking at me, glanced at my face with surprise for a moment and then stared at me intently. I couldn't look away at this point. It wasn't a competition, but I couldn't afford to lose. I thought as I stared back. He's just a big man, what's there to like about him? I had expected to hear such words, but what her father said was quite unexpected. You used to play football, didn't you? How long ago was it? Where did you live during your school days? Somewhat taken aback, I answered honestly, and his face suddenly brightened. Are you, by any chance, from that time? He asked. What? Her father began talking about the past. During his high school days, her father had been a victim of bullying. Despite his strong physique, he was timid and couldn't fit in with his peers. Perhaps for that reason, he started getting targeted by a delinquent group at some point. They would pick fights for no reason and subject him to harassment and physical assaults on a daily basis. At that time, there weren't as many regulations and penalties for bullying as there are today, so teachers and friends often turned a blind eye. There were even times when he was told that he shared some responsibility for being bullied. No one came to his aid, and he lacked the courage to ask them to stop or the strength to resist. On that particular day, when he was about to be taken to a secluded spot where the bullies could do as they pleased, he was rescued by a passerby who happened to come by. The passerby, who had no prior acquaintance with her father, approached him with smile, even though they had never met. "It's been a while. How have you been?" Despite the sudden approach, the tall passerby draped an arm around her father's shoulders. The delinquent group, taken aback by the appearance of the large stranger, turned around but were disregarded by the passerby. "Are you coming to practice today? With you around, our quarterback is unstoppable." The passerby playfully swung a football helmet while patting her father's shoulder. Then, he looked at the delinquent group and said, "Do you guys know him? He's quite different from your usual crowd. Maybe you should consider getting in shape with some football, huh?" His imposing physique, the football helmet, and the suggestion to get in shape. He used these tactics to intimidate the delinquent group effectively. For a while, the delinquents hesitated on the spot, but eventually, their spirits seemed to deflate, and they muttered complaints before dispersing. It seemed like they had lost their edge. Her father had thought of thanking the passerby, but by the time he realized it, the man had already disappeared. He had carried this sense of regret for not being able to say thank you for a long time. He assumed the passerby was likely a football player, given the helmet, and probably a college student based on his appearance. Despite his efforts, he never found out who that person was. Nevertheless, since he had been so kind as to help, her father decided to take up football himself, using his physical attributes to his advantage. He eventually retired from the sport, having even played for a semi-professional football team. "I recognized you right away. You're the one who helped me, aren't you?" Starting football had given her father a sense of belonging and self-confidence, and it had rekindled his empathy for others. His formerly timid personality had transformed, and with his newfound confidence, he was no longer a target for bullies. "I owe my current self to you." He conveyed his gratitude. Most likely, the passerby was me. It was a long time ago, but I remembered rescuing a timid-looking high school student who was surrounded by a group of apparent troublemakers. I couldn't stay silent in the face of such a cowardly move, so I spoke up. I didn't know that he was looking for me, but shortly after, I had an accident and ended up hospitalized, so I guess my player registration was cancelled. I never expected to meet again in a place like this. After quitting football, I had consciously distanced myself from it. However, I realized that some people became interested in me precisely because I had played. My father-in-law had also played football, and it not only changed his personality but also transformed his life. It might sound exaggerated, but it truly made a significant impact on him. I began to believe that my time playing football wasn't in vain, and I started to regain my confidence. To be honest, I was against this marriage at first. But if it's you, it's a different story. Despite the age difference, I trust and respect you from the bottom of my heart. I believe you will make Lily happy. With those words from my father-in-law, I also expressed my feelings to Lily. Lily, understanding my feelings, made things easier. Despite the age gap, she felt incredibly close. I expressed my desire to be with Lily forever and sought her parents' approval. Lily's parents were as delighted as mine. Afterward, Lily and I officially got engaged and registered our marriage after graduation. Lily is working hard as a new teacher, so we plan to have the wedding when school breaks come. I suddenly wondered why Lily decided to become a teacher and asked her. She told me it was because her father had been bullied when he was young, and she couldn't forgive it. I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if there hadn't been someone to help. I couldn't believe that people around and even teachers had turned a blind eye. While I believe that the system has been reformed now, there's a chance that we might still be overlooking certain things. If that's the case, she felt a strong desire to be the one to offer help this time. Learning that Lily's motivation was also connected to me felt strangely moving. I believe that our actions can make others feel something, and bring out some changes. I think everything happens for a reason. I want to continue having confidence in my actions and walk proudly into